evening. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We returned from executive session, and now we will go with the approval of items by consensus. Mrs. Benton.
Good evening, everyone. This evening we have 3 items on the consent agenda: the approval of the regular session minutes of March 23rd, 2011, and approval of the executive session minutes of March 23rd. And transmission of Treasury warrant March 30th payroll, L60, L61, L62, L63, G419, R228, and FS16.
Did anyone need the minutes to be separated? No. Mr. Hayes, okay. So we'll take the approval of the minutes of March 23rd, 2011, regular session and executive session separately. All right. Could we have a motion to approve those? Mr. Marchese?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular school committee meeting on March 23rd, 2011. And you want to do treasury warrants at the same time?
No, we'll do treasury warrants separately.
Oh, okay.
We can do the executive session minutes, too.
We can out here?
No, just to approve the ones, I mean, Mrs. Benton gave them to you?
Without release, yeah.
Okay.
Without release.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And I also approve the March 23rd executive session meeting minutes for not for release.
Not release. Okay, do we have a second? Dr. Quick, thank you. All those in favor? Okay. We have 3, and then we have 2 abstentions. All those abstaining. That would be two of us. Thank you, Linda. Okay. And now we'll transmit the Treasury warrant. Mr. Marchese.
Make a motion to approve the transmitting of the Treasury warrant dated March 30th, 2011. The payroll L60, 61, 62, 63, G419, R228, and FS16.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, Mr. Hayes. All those in favor? Oh, no, sorry. Yes.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'd like to, and I don't know whether it's appropriate to sort of float it now, but since the motion's on the table, I thought I'd ask the question. I'd like to set up a mechanism, I'd like to recommend the school committee set up a mechanism by which once or twice or maybe 3 times a year, we arbitrarily pick one warrant and ask the superintendent to designate someone who wasn't involved in the preparation of the warrant to basically do an internal audit to make sure that everything that has been designated for payment on the warrant has actually been received or otherwise is adequately supported by appropriate documentation. And I did discuss this with Superintendent Benton and also with Mr. Hayes at a policy committee meeting, and they both thought it was an excellent idea if I could put words in their mouths.
Sounds like a great idea.
I couldn't say any better, Quincy, so I'm glad you said it.
Okay. Are we going to formalize, will you as a policy subcommittee formalize when you'd like to do that and then bring it back to us?
Sure, I guess
You know what I mean? So
we could write something up. It's more like a procedure.
It's a procedure.
It's more a procedure than a policy.
Then we'll have the superintendent do the procedure, check with the 2 of you, and then bring it back to us. Because if we don't set it up to do it formally, it'll get lost in the shuffle.
Right. I just think this is the way that everyone will know that when they go into the department and actually sign the warrant. I mean, you get a stack of paper, but I have no idea whether it's all done according to appropriate rules, and if the vending machine that was procured was delivered, or the computer monitor or whatever was actually delivered. So.
Okay. Mr. Marchese?
I just want to make sure that this process doesn't end up being an inquisition of some sort, because I initially had some issues and questions about signing the warrants myself and all of that, and had discussions with Mrs. Benton and Mr. Ruggiero about who signs the warrants and what the roles and responsibilities of how it comes up through the chain of command. So you have a set of accountants who look at it, you have Mr. Ruggiero's looking at it, you have Mrs. Benton's looking at it. We already have all these layers of, I guess, security, you could say, that are already looking at these warrants and improving it. And so we're just finalizing it, sending it up to the town hall for final approval. So I just want to make sure that no one in the administration thinks, or this gets way out of hand where we're scrutinizing every single penny that comes out here, because this is what we pay the administration to do. So, and again, we're not professional auditors. Granted, I do have experience in accounting and finance, but I don't want this to be that we're taking on this role as internal auditors here and auditing our own staff.
It's a good point, too. Mrs. Benton?
Actually, and I appreciate that Mr. Ruggiero works hard enough, but what I like about this process is it takes you through the whole process. What a warrant does is approval to pay, but you don't know if we've received it and all the pieces that go with it, and there's like 7 more pieces of paper that go with it. So I like the idea of having us 3 times a year pull one, bring it to the committee, and showing you the whole process. So you can see what happens when an item does not come in and how the money has to go back versus ones where the item comes in. So I think it's not a lot of extra work, and I think it's...
All right, so I just want to make sure that, so what you're explaining was a little different. So not necessarily an audit. An audit is just pulling blankly, someone going in there and then scrutinizing it down to the last penny to make, I mean, I've been through audits.
Yeah.
You're just explaining the process is what you want to do.
We're just going to pull 3 warrants and bring
okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I think I said mini audit, but I sort of meant an internal review to tie everything back and make sure it's really there. And I've just commented before that as a school committee member, I see our role as really akin to something like being a director on a board of directors. And I've thought that it's always been kind of strange that members of the board of directors are being asked to sort of get involved in sort of signing off on day-to-day administrative kind of stuff. I mean, that's what we sort of hire the CEO or the superintendent to do. And I don't know other organizations that do that. And, if I were involved in sort of day-to-day management, I'd be happy to sign off on payroll or procurements or bills to be paid. But it's sort of an odd position for a director to be asked to be doing. So this for me is a way to make sure that everything sort of ties back together and is double checked, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Marchese.
And just to your comment, Mr. Vail, I think the biggest difference between us and other corporations, one, this is a public forum, form of government, and it's called Mass General Laws is what constitutes, our duty, what we need to do. But in terms of all those daily checks and administrative, doing the day-to-day stuff, that's what Mr. Ruggiero and Mrs. Benton does and their staff do. So we're just doing what we're obligated to do by Mass General Law. So, it's not necessarily we're in there looking at the minutia, because that's not our job. As you stated, that's
right.
what Mr. Ruggiero and his staff do. So, again, we're following the letter of the law, at this point. And just sending it off to town hall to please pay the bill.
Yeah, I've never seen a statutory requirement that says the members of the board have to sign off on a warrant.
I can tell you this.
We've been through this before.
Chapter 51, I believe.
Mr. Ruggiero actually cited to you because I actually asked them to show me the section of the Mass General Law, and it does exist where it says school committee members have to sign the warrant to be transmitted to town hall for payment. It's just the way it is in Massachusetts.
If you'd like to see it, you could make an appointment with Mr. Or the next time you're in to sign the warrants. I'm sure Mr. Ruggiero has it bookmarked. All right, so we'll expect this to come back again. Did we have a second?
Yes, there was a second.
Second, all right. All those in favor of the Treasury warrant articles? Unanimous. Thank you. Okey-doke. The next item, Katie, you have appeared. That's great. It's good to see you. Student School Committee report.
A lot of clubs have been having meetings this week. In particular, Medical Careers Club and SAD both had meetings. National Honor Society had its induction ceremony last Thursday, where senior members received their stoles and juniors received pins. Strings Attached Orchestra is leaving this Friday evening for Europe and will be touring throughout the week in Austria. Spring sports have started, and as many sports as possible are having practices indoors. Next week, April vacation begins for all Wilmington Public Schools. As soon as we come back in early May, advanced placement tests begin. On Tuesday, May 4th, 6 p.m. at Wilmington High School, there will be a makeup pre-prom assembly, which is mandatory for both student and parent for any student who wants to attend prom. And senior prom will be on May 13th. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Did we have Mr. Hayes?
Katie, I'm glad you showed up because now that we've eliminated board members' questions and comments, this is the time where I get to talk about some of the programs and activities I attended throughout the district. And I just wanted to touch on a few. I've been to a lot lately, and I missed the last meeting, so I apologize for that. So I have about 6 weeks' worth of school functions, but I just wanted to touch on a few. I attended Marchapella, and I just wanted to congratulate publicly Mr. Luciana, the WHS Soundscape members, and the alumni who were present, and the CATS Parent Support Group for just an outstanding evening. I attended the High School Cultural Festival. I want to congratulate CTL and my former French teacher, Joyce Beckwith, the Foreign Language Department, the Foreign Language Club, and all the students for a great night of education, entertainment, and of course food. I attended the Butwell School Night at the Wilmington Memorial Library, and I always have a soft spot in my heart for libraries. Just want to publicly again congratulate head teacher Sandy Dumont and principal Robert Apolloni, library director Tina Stewart, and soon-to-be retired children's librarian Susan McDonald. She is retiring after nearly 40 years. Yeah, and also want to congratulate the parents and students of the Butwell for what I hope will become an annual event of wonderful collaboration between the public schools and the public library. I also attended the Wildcat Project's pre-prom assembly. Want to congratulate head nurse Doreen Crow, assistant head high school principal Deb Deacon, the district's health and wellness committee, all staff and faculty that were involved, and of course the students and parents for coming out to a very successful and effective program. And finally, I also attended last week's National Honor Society induction ceremony at the high school. I was the guy that showed up 5 minutes late and had to sit in the back row. I'd rather sit in the back row than sit on stage, though, so it actually worked out. And I wanted to, in particular, congratulate Katie, our own Katie, who's a member of NHS. And one thing I enjoyed about the NHS ceremony was that you got to learn a little bit about each inductee. And Katie, why don't you tell us which two colleges you are deciding to go to? Which two are you debating?
Harvard College and Wesleyan University.
So I think that's a pretty good problem to have. So so best of luck in the future, and that's all I have for tonight.
Have you made the decision yet?
No, I have visits over the April
Great.
vacation.
Well, good luck. Thanks, Katie.
Excellent, Katie.
Well, since we're talking about travels in the district, last Thursday and Friday night I was able to go to my daughter's play at the middle school, The Princess and the Pea. So that was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The lead was unbelievable. It was a great show. And today I was at the North for the science fair, 5th grade science fair, which is a hoot. Fun.
That's good to know that science can be fun, because people are scared of science sometimes.
Oh, it was amazing to see what the kids came up with this year. It was actually pretty wild.
That's excellent. All right, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. All right, our next item of business is superintendent's report.
There's 4 items under the superintendent's report. I reported to you last meeting. Now I have it in writing. The letter from the Department of Education, Elementary and Secondary Education, approving our bully prevention plan. I want to again thank the team.
I just have one comment to make, and it might be the mood I was in when I was going through this, but they talked about what people probably left out, but for school, and there were only a third of us who did it correctly. There was nothing there at all about congratulations to you for paying good attention and doing it the right way. And for the public to know, on the back, on these list of things that were required in this plan, every single one of them is a yes for Wilmington. There wasn't one thing that was missed on this plan that was sent into the state. And so there's Ys everywhere. But there's also nothing on here that says, thank you, Wilmington, you did a great job.
That's my whole issue with this letter. I'm sorry, Mr. Kane, I apologize.
That's okay.
My whole issue with this letter, it doesn't actually say we approve the plan. It says, look on the back for issues that we may have found. And like you said, Mrs. Kane, everything is yes, 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 yes. We did everything. But it doesn't actually say we're officially approved. So we actually don't have that letter yet.
I think it gives the letter
I'm sorry,
we're
Mrs. Beck, maybe you interpret it differently, but it doesn't actually say, Wilmington, you're approved.
We have, first glance, were approved.
Yeah. Then I'm going to share with you the feedback.
It says, private schools shall develop and adhere and update. Your district has been reviewed, and I am writing to share with you the feedback from the reading team.
And the feedback for the people who did it should be positive, and
Initial
who did
review
it,
of
we're
the
proud
plan.
of you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So maybe there will be another letter that tells us you did a great job.
Yeah.
But I think it was so much work that I really think that the state could have had a little bit more of a kudos for us.
I know, because Ms. Benton, you did
Mr.
a
Hayes.
phenomenal job of this, so did the entire administration, all the staff, you know what I mean? So I think Wilmington deserves a little bit more credit than what we're given in this letter.
I do too. Mr. Hayes?
And even though the plan is now in place, the work is still ongoing, and the bullying subcommittee will be next meeting on Tuesday, April 26th at 9:15 at the Wilmington Middle School. And at this particular meeting, the committee will primarily be discussing the upcoming surveys that will be given to parents, staff, and students. These surveys will attempt to answer the who, what, when, where, why, and how as it relates to bullying in the Wilmington Public Schools. And these surveys are a requirement, I believe, under the district's new anti-bullying plan. And these results will provide a valuable tool in our effort to eliminate bullying from Wilmington schools. And I, too, also just wanted to echo my congratulations to the bullying committee and for Superintendent Benton, who I think expedited the process a little bit towards the end, towards the deadline. But I'm glad to serve on the committee, and I'm pleased with the results of the plan being approved. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We all set? Okay. Oh, could we invite
I'd
you?
like to invite the director of the Qios program, Jean Noonan, up to give a brief overview of our wonderfully successful program.
Thank you. Hi,
Thank
Jean.
you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thanks, everyone, for having me. I was recently asked to prepare a brief overview of the Qios program for all of you, and you received that report last week, so I'm here tonight just to highlight a few of the things that you read about in that report. As stated in the report, our primary goal as school-age care professionals is to provide a safe environment for all our children in which they can achieve and grow. Currently, we offer before-school programs for students in grades K to 5, after-school for students in grades K to 6, full-day February and April vacation programs, and a full-day summer program. That's where we are right now. Our overall enrollment has shown steady progress since my first year in Wilmington, which was 2000, but it appears to have about leveled off over the past couple of years. So we're happy with that progress and that we're staying where we are right now. Financially, Qios continues to be a self-supporting program, and I left those figures for you, for our most recent figures, and we're proud of that as well, particularly in light of the growing problems in the economy, and as prices continue to go up around us, we stay stable. In terms of the programming, which is the funnest part, we continue to focus on the 36 keys to quality programming as outlined by the National After School Association. Many of these keys are obviously reflected in the activities, the listing of activities that I gave you in your report. And you may have noticed that the care staff has a very positive and creative way of adapting these keys to quality in a way that's meaningful to our community and to the concerns that we're focusing on at the time. Obviously, one of those focuses to piggyback on what we were just talking about is bullying prevention and bullying awareness. We've really focused quite a deal on that this year and continue to focus on that. And I'm actually on the committee as well with one of my site coordinators from Boutwell, Peggy Collins. So they have been working very hard on that, and a lot of great ideas coming out of that. In terms of direct programming with the children, one of the standards to this key, which is staff use positive techniques to guide the behavior of children and youth, one of the standards of that key is that staff encourage children to resolve their own conflicts and help provide them with the tools to do so. That said, we believe that it all starts with helping them learn the importance of treating each other with kindness and understanding the value of diversity in different interests and characteristics of each other. That focus is reflected in the activities in our report, such as the children from the newspaper club at Shawsheen interviewing each other about how they can be bully-free. The Caring Thoughts Circle at Wildwood, we're starting right with the 5-year-olds, and the Surf Club at Boutwell. And the Surf Club was actually created by Peggy Collins, who is on that committee with us, and that is, it stands for Showing and Understanding Respect and Friendship. And our belief is that if we start early, we'll make a big difference in preventing some of that bullying that goes on. Another key is number 25 that states the program builds links to the community. This is one that I also spoke of last year and is very near and dear to my heart. We continue to focus on it, and we continue to develop different ways in which we can reach out to the community and work together. Some of our links are actually between our own sites, so that we may do interactive projects between the North and the West. We may have reading buddies between the middle school and the kindergarten. All of these things help us as well when we come together during vacation programs. The kids and the staff know each other, have similar interests, so it works well. Reaching out a bit further to organizations within Wilmington, we've done quite a bit with the library. This year we actually went over to play chess. We had a chess day over there, which the kids really enjoyed. We've done crafts with the seniors at Healthbridge. Some of them, we brought the crafts in and the kids taught them how to do some of them, which was really kind of fun for them. Some of them was more entertaining, singing to them and that kind of a thing. And currently they're working on a plan to raise funds for a security vest for one of the dogs at the Wilmington Police Department, and the kids actually came up with that idea. So that's pretty exciting that they're putting that together, and they're combining their talents from their sewing club to raise the funds for that. So that was pretty exciting to us. And then we've even reached out further still beyond Wilmington, and recently the Wildwood School held Valentine's for Troops, in which they involved the families as well, and they put together many packages. I think it was 70 packages that were sent over to the troops, and they actually received a thank you note today from one of the sergeants in the aviation department of the Army. They were thrilled. Mm-hmm. So that was exciting, and it really brought everybody together, and they had fun doing it. The last key that I wanted to focus on is key 13, which states that children and youth can choose from a wide variety of activities. If we break that key down further into the standards, it states that there are regular opportunities for active physical play, there are regular opportunities for creative arts and dramatic play, there are regular opportunities for quiet activities and socializing, and children have a chance to join enrichment activities that promote basic skills and higher level thinking. As you could see from some of what you were reading, we really, really focus on that variety, and we really try to incorporate all the different interests of all our kids. Usually they're teaching us as well. In the kid favorite section of our report, that section included everything from a tea party, which is very social, to a hip-hop dance club, which is very physical, and our Star Wars Day that got incredibly creative thanks to our children. And finally, I wanted to say that at Qios, we're really, really strong believers in the value of play, and particularly the importance of free play, such as building with Legos, just running around outside, chatting with friends, while coloring and playing with dolls. These types of activities we think are essential to the children growing in a healthy way. That's how they become creative, develop problem-solving skills, and learn to work with each other. That said, while it's fun to highlight many of the structured activities that I highlighted in the report, I think that it's really important to end by saying we do create many opportunities for that open free play.
Wow, thank you. Mrs. Benton.
And I just want to acknowledge the incredible work and strength of the program under Jean's leadership. She's done a phenomenal job, and it continues to flourish, and especially in these economic times, which is a real coup. And I'd also like to mention and give tribute to Jean's assistant, who sadly for me, for all of us, retired this year, Paula Samatis, in the middle of the year, who's now taking care of her grandchild. But she also used to be the greeter at the Roman House, and we miss her terribly and wish her all the best. And
We were together many years.
yes. And we welcome Patty Bozier from the North, who's now Jean's assistant. But Paula, we miss you. And thank you, Jean.
And she's probably watching.
Thank you.
Do you have any
questions?
questions? Or?
Mr. Marchese?
I know this year was kind of a leap of faith at the middle school in
Yes,
bringing
it
the
was.
sixth graders in.
Yes.
How has that been working so far?
Well, we love our sixth graders, first and foremost. We had a very small population at the middle school this year, and it did dwindle a bit throughout the year, and I think for positive reasons. I think part of it is because they offer so much at the middle school that I think some of the kids started to get involved in that. Not so happy reasons. I think some of the parents signed up might have had some financial issues. So it hasn't taken off as I had hoped, but we're going to try again next year. And we hope that advertising earlier will give us a greater population.
Okay, and do you see this expanding to the 7th and 8th grades, or are you just going to limit?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Possibly next year or the year after?
Possibly next year. We're still talking about it right now, but we're leaning in that direction, at least to 7th grade.
Okay.
So we should have that announcement out soon, and hopefully at the same time as the enrollments come out for all the other grades. This year, we did it much later. It was later in the summer, so I think some people had already made plans. I don't know that for a fact, but I just surmised that because it was so late.
Yeah, okay. Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Hayes?
Is there a late bus at the middle school, or had that been cut due to financial constraints, or could that be one of the reasons maybe why we're not seeing the numbers we thought we might?
Actually, frankly, if we had a late bus, we wouldn't see anybody at the middle school program, because parents said in the survey, actually were very honest, and used the late bus as a way of daycare. But it really wasn't very safe because there was no one set
I see.
at the middle school to be supervising those students.
Oh, I understand, okay. And what I would say is just that, you obviously have my full support. If there's anything the school committee can ever do to help support the CARES program, please let me know. And the other thing I would say real quick is I'm curious if maybe, and this may be a lot of work, but if we could track student achievement for those students who are enrolled in the CARES program and compare their student achievement versus the regular student population that does not attend CARES programming, because I wouldn't be surprised if some of these activities are leading to increased student achievement, and I'd be curious if that could be documented. But that would, I don't know if that's possible, but that's something I'd be curious in finding out in one day.
It's something we could definitely look into, and of course, there's nationwide studies on that.
Sure.
I can tell you that at the middle school this year, my site coordinator over there, Carolyn Blazer, did call me when Honor Roll came out, or High Honors, whatever it was, and it was a very large percentage of her small group of kids, but a large percentage who did really well, and she was very excited to tell me that.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, thank you.
Third on my report is Destination Imagination. Although we're going to have them coming to us on April 27th, I did want to announce for the first time in Wilmington, Destination Imagination History, we have a team qualified for global finals, which takes place on the UT campus in Knoxville, Tennessee from May 25th through the 28th. Laurie Ryan's middle school team qualified in the Project Outreach Challenge. Since September, this team has been working to develop a program called Kits for a Cause, where they provide emergency kits to the high-risk elderly residents of Wilmington. This is a chance for Laurie's team to not only represent Massachusetts, but Wilmington at an international competition with over 100,000 participants. Kudos to Dawn DeChico and Allison Collins for reinvigorating the program, to school committee member Quincy Vale for insisting that we include funds for Destination Imagination in the budget, and to the team, which consists of Hanover Vale, Jackie Ryan, Siobhan Collins, Caitlin Baranow, Julia Warren, and Megan Stone, and we wish them luck.
We absolutely do. Do we have any Any comments? Anybody going on this we should know about? Dr. Quick.
I just want to say congratulations to the team. Destination Imagination is, I got, my daughter just got involved this year. I was a team manager for the team, and it's a lot of work, but it is a really rewarding experience, I believe, for the kids and the parents. And, you know, I got to go to my very first tournament this year, and it was just, it was exciting. It was really exciting. The kids had a blast. It's a fun day, and I strongly just recommend that more kids get involved, and let's watch it grow. So kudos, Quincy, for all your hard work for that. Good job.
Mr. Veal.
I'd just like to congratulate the team managers, Lori Ryan and Maureen Stone, for all their hard work in guiding the girls. They've done this for years now, and I've been a team manager. I know how time-consuming and how tricky it is to try, and it's like herding cats a lot of times. And I think it's, I've supported this program because I think it's an essential skill that the children learn and become very facile with, the idea of communicating and listening and working collaboratively and collectively with a group of people, some of whom sometimes you like a lot and sometimes you don't like, and quite frankly you have to work together, and this is what we all have to do, I think, professionally, and I don't really care what your profession is, pretty much every single day. So I think this is a great opportunity for the kids of Wilmington to get tremendous experience in this program. I'm glad that it's grown so much and that the school committee has, in its wisdom, decided to allocate a little bit of money into the program and to hire some townwide coordinators and do some publicity and try and take more ownership and steerage of the program. I think it's been great, and I'd like to congratulate specifically my daughter on a good job putting together and working collectively with a number of girls that she's worked with on this really since first grade. And I'm getting a trip to Tennessee out of this, so I'll be chaperoning together with a bunch of other parents at the end of May, and looking forward to it. So I want to thank everyone for their support, and to the team and the team managers and the town coordinators especially.
Thank you. That's very exciting. Yes, thank you very much.
And the last item is Day on the Hill was March 29th, and I believe we had two school committee members who attended, Mr. Marchese and Chairwoman King.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Marchese, would you like to go first? No, it's up to you.
No, that's fine. No, it was, for me, it was a very interesting day. It was very enlightening. It was a very busy schedule that they had us going right off the bat from 9 all the way till 12:30 in terms of speakers and some of the presentations that they gave. It wasn't necessarily everything that I expected. It was a little different atmosphere, I guess, this year. I think more of that has to do with a lot of the financial constraints that's going on in the state. Some of the speeches were, in my opinion anyway, maybe a little bit overly combative, but I understand where it was all coming from, because a lot of it, again, has to do with fiscal constraints, a lot of the unfunded mandates that are being imposed on schools and regional districts and all of that. So, but overall, it was a good day. It was fun to go and talk to other school committee members from all around the state and understand their situation and what they're going through, and kind of relate what we're going through here in Wilmington. And it was kind of actually almost a little bit funny talking to people in terms of budgets and cuts, and everyone say, well, how many teachers you guys going to be laying off? What's the cut? And how much you got to hack and cut? And I kind of grimaced a little bit and said, well, we're not cutting. We actually have a small increase, and we have a great school system. We got a town manager, and things are going really well, and the town's funded quite well. So so in that regard, I was very much in the minority talking to people about issues like that. So. But I mean, a lot of people are hurting out there. A lot of cities and towns are really dealing with the financial situation at an extreme point. So, so again, I do understand why some of the speeches were the way they were. But yeah, again, we did had some prominent people speaking with us. There was Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, Representative Ronald Mariano, Representative Alice Piesch, excuse me for pronouncing the name wrong. Senator Stephen Brewer, and also Senator Catherine Clark. So there was definitely some prominence there, and they were definitely listening, so which is good. So.
Thank you. I totally agree with everything you said, and I feel glad that another school committee member feels, when I go out and I talk to them, I feel the same exact way. You grimace, and you're like, you're so proud of Wilmington and how well things are going here, but you don't want to admit to a table full of people that we're not like you. Thank goodness at this point we don't have to relate to that. And they're really, one of the things that we don't have either, and they emphasized, was the regional school systems. There's a lot of work going on in the regional school systems with transportation, et cetera, and unfunded mandates, which is interesting. One of the things that I found interesting and is clever, and I'm thinking of different ways that you want to get out information, and they've done this always. They put your talking points on your coffee cup, so that when you have your legislator right there talking to you, you can look down. It's like a little sheet.
That's good.
Great idea. Isn't that a great idea? I'll send this to everybody to see.
Sarah Palin used her palm.
And they're the same things. They're the Chapter 70, everything. So that was a good way to remember your points. And the other thing about government is the only people who want to talk to you, and I don't know if they want to talk to you, but I think they do. I say positively, the people who want to talk to you are your own reps and senators. And it doesn't matter what you say to a rep or a senator from another district. They're not interested. They have so many of their own constituents to listen to. So you really, if you can't get your time to meet with your rep, then you haven't, it's good that you're there and you've heard the discussion, but you need to be able to talk with your reps. So we did have a talk with the people from Tewksbury and Representative Maselli, which was interesting. But even the people in Tewksbury, their problems or their issues are so different from our own. And so it points that out. But I think it's worthwhile. It's good for us as a school committee to keep in contact with the state school committees because there's so much to learn from them. And I have bad news, Robert, but I am not going to be able to make next year's. So I hope people will be thinking about going to next year's conference. So I'm going to be away during, just coming home then, so that won't be good.
I just want to touch on something that you just said, Mrs. Kane, in terms of relating and talking to other people, because I think sometimes people may lose sight of the fact that things have gone so well in Wilmington for so many years that who knows, maybe next year may not be such a bright year, and that we're looking at $600,000 of cuts, similar to what Tewksbury is going through right now. So to understand what other people go through and some of the actions that they take, and in terms of negotiations or or just what they need to do to get by, I think is good, and just to interact with other people and just, understand what everyone else is going through. Because, again, this is a very unique situation, what we have here in Wilmington, and I'm very happy to live here. It's a great town, and every time I go out and I talk about and tell people about Wilmington, I say, well, how's your town? I go, great. It's a wonderful town. It's a great place to live. Voted best in Massachusetts, in terms of suburbs and best affordable place. So, it's something really to appreciate. So
it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any questions, Rose? Okay. Old business, school calendar.
You have before you two calendars this evening. The first is the proposed calendar for 2011-2012 with the actual release days and curriculum improvement times included in them. You're going to notice a difference this year. The calendar has been revised. We've reduced the number of CIT days by 2 in order to meet the recommendation from the NEASC report at the high school, which was we need to increase passing time for students, and also something that I've been wanting to do, which is increase recess at the elementary level. So we will be able to do that. The other change is something that actually came out of the strategic plan survey results, in which we had quite a few parents who suggested that we do our release days on Friday afternoons because it's much easier for working parents to get off of work on a Friday than it is on a Wednesday, so we're going to pilot it next year if you approve it. So I need a motion to approve the proposed calendar.
I'd just like to make a comment. Most calls I have ever had since being on the school committee the last few years is about the recess for the elementary students. And every time, I've pursued it, I've tried to see what we could do about it. We've been locked in. So when I saw this, I was like, thank goodness, this is a great solution. This works really well. Robert?
Just to add
Mr.
some-
Hayes, excuse me.
Thank you, Peggy. Chairwoman Kane. Just to add some specifics to this conversation, though, how much will the recess time at the elementary level increase, and how much will the passing time at the high school increase?
I'll bring that back to you. They're working on the schedules
Gotcha.
now.
Okay.
Mr. Marchese?
I just have a quick comment, just to kind of a follow-up into discussions about the school calendar we had before. I know Mr. Vail had brought it up before about possibly modifying the calendar at some point and looking at some different options. Again, I know this is 2011, 2012, and I don't want to, adjust what we're doing here. Just to bring that discussion up, not right now, at some future point, to talk about some different options at some point, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I just also...
Mr. Hayes?
Yep. It's something I just wanted to publicly say is that at the beginning of the school year, I had asked Superintendent Ben, why do we start the school year before Labor Day? I had always been a proponent, especially when I was a student, of wanting to start after Labor Day, sort of stretch that summer out as much as possible. But I think we've learned our lesson this year with all our snow days, and now I have changed my position, and I am now fully in support of starting school after Labor Day. I'm sorry, before Labor Day. Oh, my goodness, I've changed my position again. No, before Labor Day.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
All right, then I'd entertain a motion that the proposed calendar for the 2011-2012 school year be approved as presented. Do we have a motion? Dr. Quick?
Motion to approve the school calendar for the year 2011-2012 as presented.
Second, Mr. Marchese. All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda. Thank you.
We also go out another year in order for families who are planning vacations, so this is the proposed 2012-2013 calendar without just the vacation days, not the CIT days.
CIT days, okay. I'd entertain a motion that proposed calendar for 2012-2013 school year be approved as presented. Mr. Marchese?
Just with the caveat, the CIT days will be added at some point, so that's also, people understand that CIT days will be added.
Okay, excellent. Would you like to make the motion too?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Mr. Hayes? Any other comments? All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see Mr. Reed.
And maybe Superintendent Bennett, procedurally, if we wanted to look at options with respect to the calendar, should we form a subcommittee to do that? Would it go to the policy committee, or what? Just procedurally, how do we get ahead of this?
I think you could have a subcommittee, but it wouldn't be the policy subcommittee. I think it would be another.
Would it be the ad hoc committee or something? Or
It would have
Maybe
to be.
Paul could chair it.
some couple people to collect some information,
yeah.
review what other school districts do, what other states do, and then sort of report back.
Yeah, and I think on something like that, I think feedback from the public would also be important too, understanding, what their needs are in terms of changing the schedule, and, who knows, I don't know, just something, get some comment.
Dr. Quick?
Survey Monkey, that survey, you could always send one of the surveys to get the community feedback before you do that, but I think that's a good idea.
All right, so we'll have to put a committee together and find a name for it.
For the fall.
We'll do it, start it in the fall.
Calendar committee.
Calendar committee, that does it.
Sure.
Simple. Thank you, Mr. Marchese. Sounds good to me. Okay. Our next item is the update on the high school feasibility study.
I'm pleased to say that we had our first public forum last evening at the high school on the process that we're making in the feasibility study to decide whether to renovate, add on, or build a new high school. There are two more public hearings, one that will take place on May 12th and one that will take place on June 7th. We are at a place where site options were narrowed last evening, The whole presentation, public forum presentation, is on our website, so community members who could not attend last night are invited to look at the options, and we're requesting that all public comments around the site options be returned to me by April 21st, and my email address is right on the website as well. The high school building committee has narrowed the options down to basically 3, which include renovating and building an addition, or building new. So that's where we're at in the process.
Mr. Marchese?
I was at the meeting last night, and I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised in the attendance. I thought for sure there'd be more people out there. I mean, this is a big step for the town of Wilmington, and I encourage more people to please get involved in the process. One key thing that the town manager pointed out last night, when the referendum passed many years ago for the middle school, it passed by under 150 votes. And could you just imagine Wilmington without that middle school today, and everything that happens in that school, and how much of a resource it is for this town? So this building, whether it be a renovation or a new construction or whatever happens, it's critical to the future of this town. And please do get involved, because it's your town, it's your building. You know, this is not just going to belong to the school system; it's going to belong to the entire community. And its footprint is probably going to be here on the town common where it exists today. And it just, I can't stress it more. Please get involved, because we need people to get involved. We need your ideas. We need your opinions. You know, we need it now, and not at the 24th hour, you know, right when it's going to MSBA and someone comes up with an idea. Hey, why are you doing that when you should have done this? Now is the time to get involved. So please do come to these hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marchese. It's excellent. And the next 2 are going to be, we're telling it in plenty of time for people to be prepared, May 12th and June 7th. And they'll both be at the auditorium, the high school auditorium. So there's plenty of room. So hopefully more people will come. That would be great. All right. New business, school choice vote.
This is an annual item that the school committee is required by state law to vote on. This vote will determine whether the Wilmington School Committee will participate in the state school choice program for the 2011-2012 school year. Since 1994, when this law was enacted, the Wilmington School Committee has annually voted not to participate. There are a variety of philosophical as well as practical reasons to either participate or not. Previous years, the decision not to participate has been based on lack of available space for students outside of Wilmington. I believe this situation remains, and I recommend that you vote not to participate in the state's school choice program.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion that the Wilmington School Committee vote not to participate in the state's school choice program because of a lack of available space to accommodate out-of-school students. Do we have someone to make the vote? Mr. Hayes?
I'll move that the Wilmington School Committee vote not to participate in the state's school choice program because of a lack of available space to accommodate out-of-town students.
We have a second? Mr. Vail, thank you. Any comments or questions? No? All right. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Marchese?
I truly do understand why school committees choose to vote this way, and what the recommendation of the superintendent is. And but it seems there's a lot of talk out there about school choice and charter schools and vouchers and all that. And today I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine about a situation that they were in, their family, and something that was going on, and now they're opting to go to a private school. And again, that's their own choice. They're not being forced to do it, but that's what they're doing because they say it's for the benefit of their child and so forth. And the first thing that came out of his mouth is, wow, I wish I had a voucher to go over there. He goes, I pay so much in taxes and blah, blah, but, you know, this is something that I'm doing on my own. So it just, again, it was a personal friend of mine, and we had this conversation. So I take this a little bit to heart because I do know that child and the situation he's going through. So just in that regard, yes, I'm going to abstain on this because of some information I learned today and all that, and you know, and where I stand on this choice. So just want to just kind of make that known. So.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, All those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, Linda. And all those abstain?
Abstain.
1. Thank you, Mr. Marchese. Okay. Our next item of business is the superintendent's evaluation. Just a little bit of background on this. Wilmington is in a strange position because of our elections. Our elections are in April. We haven't finished the school year, and yet by state law, we are required to evaluate the superintendent yearly. A new thing that's happened under the new state law is it's not the way it used to be. In the past, we would all do our own evaluation, send them to one person or two on the committee. A composite evaluation would be put together, and that would be coming forth for the school committee, from the school committee. And so the superintendent never had a chance to know who said what in the evaluation. So if there was anything that was negative, the superintendent wouldn't know, who she may be able to work with in a different way, or who was upset by something. And he or she in the past could not do that. 2 years ago, so last year was the first year, the state law changed, and you have to do it in public session. Now, everything is supposed to be in public session. But you have a choice. If we decided that we then wanted a subcommittee to go into private session with what we had all said, and to pull it together as a composite, anything that's discussed in that private session that was not discussed at the open session has to be restated in public session. So you have to have a whole other discussion if you got off track and you started discussing things that you hadn't brought up. If you say, oh my gosh, I forgot this happened, I want to add that because that's a real positive to the evaluation. You cannot do that without coming back. So we chose last year to just do it in public session. Therefore, you don't have an official form that you give to the superintendent that says this is your evaluation. You have the minutes from the meeting, and those minutes comprise a superintendent's evaluation. All right. Does anyone have any questions about that much? All right. So what I've done is I put together for you some information. And our evaluation is the basis of our evaluation is, of course, the superintendent's goals, which we okayed at the beginning of the year. And so you have the superintendent's goals for 2010, 2011, and they're about student learning, leadership and planning, finance and budget, facilities and space utilization, and climate and culture. Okay. Then, the original superintendent's, I gave you, for years has been the superintendent's evaluation. Relationship with school committee, educational leadership, general management, financial business. They basically, personnel management and communications with public relations. They basically fit together. But this is a little more, what is the word? It's a little more tricky to put this together and do this. Any notes that you bring, if you bring notes that night and you want to read from the notes, those also go to the superintendent. Okay, so if you, some people would choose just to put a little notation, because what we're going to do is for each of these goals, we're basically going to say, how did these goals work in relationship with the school committee? Did I understand about them? Did I know these goals, etc.? You can go do it whatever way you want, but what I will do that night at our next meeting, or whoever, because we will have, this is what's our problem, but we're just going to keep going forward. We will have our change in leadership or whatever, so we have to start the next meeting. It'll be after the election. So we will have the vote on the school committee positions. Whoever's the chairperson will then take these and go one at a time through student learning, leadership and planning, and we'll go through the group and make our comments on each of those areas for the superintendent so that she'll know how we feel that she did those. Also, I've given you the 5-year plan because this gives you specifics as to what we've accomplished, what the superintendent has accomplished under her leadership for the 5-year plan. Okay, do we all, Dr. Quick?
I just have a question. Last year that was the first time we did it this way,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Do we have any feedback in general how other towns, if they did it the same, if they did it differently, which worked better? Just because it's such a convoluted.
It is a convoluted, the towns, I'm in contact with a couple, and they did it the same exact way.
Okay.
And they didn't go into, they did it in public, and it read it into the minutes. And then if they had any little notes, they just went into a packet, and they're given to the superintendent. So I think it's pretty hard. Last year I didn't have notes to go in, but it was difficult to remember everything. So I think, yeah, Mr. Marchese.
I guess 2 questions. One, I know you said we're going to do it right after the elections. To me, that sounds a little obscure because you may or may not have 2 new members on the board in reorganization, so that may be a little bit confusing or cumbersome on new members and reorganization. And the other thing is, why can't we do this earlier in the year, like had it done tonight? I'm not trying to force a schedule here or whatever, change things, but it would make more sense to have it done before the elections. That way, the sitting board, who's working with the superintendent, reviews the superintendent. Versus if you have 2 new people.
To tell you the truth, Mr. Marchese, that's my fault. I thought that we could leave this off until the teacher contract was settled, towards the end of the year. Hopefully, it would be settled. And then I found out that, no, we have to do it during this year. So we only have like 3 more meetings. And so it was my fault that we didn't get it done. I'm a meeting behind.
Could we possibly then maybe move a meeting forward? That way we can reorganize and then...
What? Excuse me? Is
No,
that fine?
I'm
The
just
superintendent has to agree with whatever we do.
That's fine.
I'm just trying to make it ease of the
Mr.
board,
Hayes
in
had thought that
case
too,
we have... Yeah.
That's fine.
That sounds great. So it would be June,
May.
May.
May 11th?
So,
Be May 11th, right? Is the
that
first
would give
meeting?
us time, too, to go over it.
Correct, yeah.
It's a lot to go over.
Over, yeah.
May 11th? Mr. Hayes?
I would support the May 11th date. What I had originally thought was, in a perfect world, we would wait and evaluate the superintendent at the end of the school year, because we're basing our evaluation on superintendent's goals for 2010-2011 school year and the year 5 of the strategic plan, school year 2010-2011. So it would make sense to evaluate her at the end of those years. It's like an equivalent would be, giving a student his final grade before the 4th semester starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, I do know there's realities, and we're going to have at least 1 new school committee member on board, so we do have to take that into consideration. And I would be fine with the May 11th date.
I'm sorry, I think Mr. Bill, you didn't, okay.
I had one other question.
Yeah.
Now we're bringing up the issue of the potential of new members or whatever. Would they have to abstain from that because they weren't even involved in the process?
Right, no, they wouldn't be involved.
They wouldn't be involved?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So that's another issue.
Yeah.
But it would be a good time to find out, for a new member to find out that, how well the superintendent's doing and where the person would be starting in terms of the school system and where it's going and where it's been this past year.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So that would be good. So is everyone in agreement with May 11th would be the day we do this? Sounds good to me.
Expect a lot of notes from me. Apologize ahead of time.
We'll put you last. Only kidding. Okay. All right, that's great then. If you have any other questions about it, you could, contact me and let me know. We can if there's other questions or an easy way or something that you'd like to bring up at the next meeting, just let us know and we can put it back on the agenda. See, okay. Thank you. Our next item is public comments. Do we have any public comments? Mrs. Bonish.
Can I ask questions or just make comments?
No, you can ask a question.
I attended last night's public forum, which was very helpful, and I agree that I wish more people had attended. I'm wondering how it's advertised. How is that public forum advertised? Is it in the paper, or I know that there's a phone call maybe that goes out, but I'm just wondering if it could be advertised better, because I do think it would be helpful for people to attend the next 2.
It was in all 3 papers. It was an alert now email message went out to every parent in the community. It was announced at all the selectmen meetings and is online on both the, it was also in the town manager's note newsletter in the tax bill.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I mean, I found it very interesting. I think everybody should go, so.
Great, thank you.
And also, are the choices that were presented last night the only choices now?
Correct.
Okay, so originally there were some choices that were incorporating the existing gym. Is that no longer one of the options?
That is correct. You're very observant.
Okay.
And the
People
reason...
were asking afterwards last night, is the gym staying, or is it, because I know the reason that they were trying to keep it.
In options 4A and 4B, the existing gym is renovated, but those options call for renovation. If we go with new, they have just learned that the MSBA guidelines, it was everyone's belief that the gym was 14,000 square feet, and we didn't want to give that up. But that included the wrestling room. So that our gym is not the size as calculated by the MSBA that we can have, so that's why we would go with a new gym.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
All right, and one more thing. I'm very happy about the Friday CIT days. I think that's a great idea. My son is, he'll be in 7th grade next year, so not that big a deal, but I know a lot of parents, Fridays is much better than Wednesdays.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush. Mr. Sagal.
Yes, thank you. I have a number of comments. Just a point of clarification on the gym. I was under the impression that, I understand that you're saying that the wrestling room was included in the square footage, but I was also under the impression that ancillary facilities like locker rooms and whatnot were not counted in the 14,000, and I'm wondering how the MSBA qualifies what's the gym as opposed to what's not the gym as far as square footage.
The current MSBA guidelines are for a 960 student population and for a main gym of 12,000 square feet plus 3,000 square feet for alternative PE spaces. Currently, we have calculated 14,299 square feet for the gym plus wrestling plus weight room.
So it's 12,000 plus 3, and we have 14,200, which is about the same thing. Doesn't include any of the support facilities like the locker rooms and all that other stuff.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you. With regard to the notification of the meeting, I was at a number of the selectmen meetings, and I thought they were going to put it on the WCTV scroll as well, because there's a community bulletin board thing on that, so that if it wasn't, it should be for the next one. I just have a couple questions on some of the topics that came up this evening, if you don't mind. I tried to scribble notes. In the school calendar, you mentioned some changes that facilitated the high school passing time. And for those of us that are still learning some of these terms, what does that mean?
The state requires that students be in class, in contact with teachers 990 hours. In building our schedule, there's actually 1 minute for a student to get from one class to another. However, you have toured the high school, and you know that some locker rooms are on the Adams Street wing, some are on the side of the building. And so when the New England Associations of Schools and Colleges came in to do the accreditation, they noted that realistically, it's not enough time for a student to go to his or her locker and then go to the next class. So we're building in an extra. I will let you know, Mr. Tracy's working on the schedule, 1.5 minutes of passing time between classes. That's what that is.
I see. I seem to recall when I was in school, it was at least 5 or 6 minutes between classes. So you're saying that right now that the high school students are dealing with 1 minute between classes?
That's correct.
Wow. Need some horizontal elevators. Thank you for that clarification. I had another question. One of the concerns I had was about a vote that you folks just took with regard to school choice participation. And I had some questions, if it's possible. The amount of money that Wilmington spends per student is X. Do we have a specific number that we can assign to that?
Yeah, subject to check, probably in the $10,000 in that ballpark. But
On the impression approximately 10,000, okay. If the town were to participate in this exchange, basically it's an exchange potential. Some students could come in, some students could go to other schools if the town opts for that. Is that my understanding correct, or?
Not totally. If the school committee had approved school choice, students could opt in to Wilmington.
Right.
Presently, we have students who have opted out of Wilmington into other school choice communities. That's allowed.
As long as they have
As
opted
long
in.
as the community right, exactly.
If a student opts into Wilmington, and I'll just throw out a round number, and it's from a neighboring town that possibly only spends $9,000 per student on their students, I presume there's a reimbursement to Wilmington for the cost of that education, and is that reimbursement to Wilmington based on Wilmington's expenditures per student, or the host town, or the original town's, or do we not know?
It's based on Wilmington's, but philosophically, why I have a problem with school choice is because you're taking the funds from another public school. The way the law works, say, for example, 10 students we had school choice,
Right.
and 10 students from Tewksbury opted to come to Wilmington. Tewksbury's school budget would be reduced by $100,000 because those funds would come to Wilmington. And I don't think it's fair that's my own opinion, philosophically, that those funds should come out of public fund, out of the Chapter 70 funds.
The reason I'm bringing this up, and I'd like to have it work in front of the public, is that I happen to believe that competition breeds superior products, and varied choices for the parents for different issues. It promotes excellence. If we're going to build something or hire somebody or do anything, most of us choose from among our choices. And our choices for a plumber, as an example, include how much it's going to cost and what we believe is his level of excellence. And I believe that as a parent, I would love to have those choices in the education of my children as well. And I would choose varying school systems. And currently, I have maps here, the vast majority of the state, as far as the number of communities, do opt in, but very few of them in our immediate area.
Right.
Certainly out west, south, basically every area except for this area, except for this immediate densely populated area, all the towns opt in. And most of them participate based on the state information. Locally, I think there's only one or two towns that opt in within the county. But I have a list of the charter schools that are in the area, and Lawrence or Lowell or Cambridge are about the closest ones I could find. Wakefield, I think, maybe. So charter schools aren't really that much of an option for most students. You have private schools that are not compensated to the parents. So basically, a parent looking to find the best in excellence for the education of their children in Wilmington have very few choices.
They have the best choice. Wilmington.
I agree, and that's why I was asking about the cost, because I presume that if we opted in, we would probably receive more students, because we do a very good job in Wilmington, than we would lose to the process. And now you're saying that we could already have lost all those students to the process, to the neighbors, if they're opting in.
You also have a problem with class size. The school committee has a policy on class size. If you had school choice, you'd be increasing the class. We don't have the space for the students. The reason why the western part of the state opts in is because they have space to take students into their schools. We do not have extra space. If we did, I'd have more special ed programs brought into Wilmington because that would keep more money in the school system. So there's two issues. It's space and then philosophical issue of where the funding comes from.
Well, I appreciate that, and as a professional in the education business, that's a fine perspective. But as a parent looking for the best options for the education of my children, I want to keep all the options available that are possible.
You do have an option. You can have school choice if you can find a district around here that you'd like to send your child to. We have 4 children that are taking advantage of school choice.
And Wilmington is losing approximately $40,000 a year because of that.
That's correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. But if we were to open up, we could conceivably get that $40,000 and a whole lot more, but we also have the extra burden of educating those children. I understand that. I just wanted to bring out the answer to my question.
Just wanted to make, because you were saying you didn't have a choice, but you do have a choice. You have public education, and you can choose to send your child to another school system that has voted to approve school choice.
Yes, and unfortunately, none of them in Middlesex County have done that, except for one that I haven't identified yet. Thank you. I just said it's a very real consideration for me, and I am interested in the best product that I can find for my children to educate them, and I think we've done very well in Wilmington. But I know of other children that are going to private schools. Their parents have the facility and they're willing to spend the money and have the capacity to spend the money, and they're looking for something that Wilmington doesn't offer, apparently, and I just want to know, what are all the different choices that are available. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sagal. Okay. Other reports. Tonight we have a few other reports. We're going to start with Dr. Quick.
Good evening again. First want to talk about, I have had over the last month, I've had 2 meetings, one for the Wilmington Education Foundation, and I just want to begin by thanking all the parents that, and all our WEF friends, as we like to call them, who came out in support of the Wilmington Educational Foundation on April 1st for the vendor fair. It was a great time, a wonderful turnout. We couldn't get the raffle tickets out fast enough, and we raised a total of $3,320 from that vendor fair. So thank you to the vendors, thank you to all the parents that just made it a great time, and thank you very much to the donators also. A couple of things, try to keep it as brief as possible. We had... we were able to increase our Fund for Teachers grant funding. I believe I spoke about that last time, and we did give out, did they go out already, Jim?
It's going out tomorrow morning, so don't announce.
Okay, all right,
Surprise.
3 grants. Right, that's why I wanted to double check. 3 grants were chosen. I'll keep that a secret. Next is our technology grant will be awarded in May. The curriculum grant program, one of the things that they gave for funding was for the multicultural performance that I attended last Tuesday with Jose Vijon. I don't speak French, so sorry. It was a wonderful performance. It was great. She sang in French. She sang in Spanish. She spoke about her family because she's French Canadian. Her husband is from Ecuador, but they traveled to and it was just she did a wonderful job, and I enjoyed it. They did it one time for the freshmen and sophomores, one time for the juniors and seniors, and I'm just glad that we were able to help. The Educational Foundation was able to help fund that. So congratulations to that. And that's it for the Education Foundation meeting. On to the next one.
Thank you, sure.
Okay. The other meeting that I had was the Health and Wellness Committee meeting. And some really exciting things. Over at the West Intermediate, they piloted a program, the Recess Before Lunch program. And it was really exciting to hear about, because what they did was typically how the classes go through the day is you have your lunch and then you have the recess. And what they did in the 5th grade class at the West Intermediate was they switched it, so the recess came first. They wanted to see, basically the results on the children. And the results were actually pretty significant for the positive. Basically, the nurse there, Maureen's last name? Maureen Travis did performed some statistical analysis on nurse visits compared to the same class last year, and nurse visits went down. They also found that kids were eating more of their lunches. And they weren't rushing around so much, because a lot of times they found that the kids would eat their lunch and rush right out to recess. So basically what they found from this pilot program was just some really positive results in the kids, and I guess the teachers were saying afterwards the kids were much calmer once they got back. So I think, and I hope that maybe this program is expanded. So that sounded like a great program that they did, and I hope, again, that it expands in the future. Employee Health Benefits Fair is May 4th at the Town Hall. Mary Palin, head of Food Services, was discussing, I want to give her congratulations because she continues to really work hard to continue the healthy lunch choices that we have. And one of the exciting things, especially because my daughter goes to Woburn Street School, was they actually have salad choices every day. So it's a little here and there. I know the kids fight it sometimes, but it's great to hear that she's really trying to improve school lunches on all levels. And one of the things she did say also was that they had somebody there giving them a review, I believe it was. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, sorry, Mary. But they did say they were amazed at the fact that the kids went through and they were actually picking something from every food group. Yep. And a lot of schools don't do that. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Coordinated review program from the DESC.
Thank you.
She did very well.
Thank you. She did. Kudos to Mary Palin for that. Another thing was we discussed the Safe and Drug-Free Schools grants, and that one of the objectives is training the staff in bullying prevention and strategies. So I believe that's going on track. And the other last thing was the Essential School Health Service Grant. And one of the things that they've been doing is having several CPR classes, and they actually had for the first time a student CPR class, and it filled up, and then they ended up having a waiting list, and they had that in April. So hopefully something like that will be able to continue on an annual basis. And that's it for my reports.
Excellent. Anyone have any comments or questions? Great, thank you. Mr. Hayes.
Okay, I'll try to be as brief as possible. So School Committee Representative to CPAC, Kathleen Carroll, asked me to share this with the public. In response to special education survey results, the Wilmington Special Education Parent Advisory Council is hosting a communication panel discussion to provide important tips to parents on the communication process. The event will be held on Thursday, April 14th at 7 o'clock at the Wilmington High School Library. The panel will feature Wilmington educational professionals, a CPAC board member, and a parent. Light refreshments will be served at 6:30, and to receive more information, please contact CPAC co-chair Mary Allen at Mary, that's MERI, .allen34@gmail.com. And I know that many of the school committee members will be attending tomorrow night. The policy subcommittee met last Thursday at the Roman House. The committee discussed 4 policies recommended by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. We discussed policies relating to service animals in school, student transfers from charter schools, concussions and head injuries, and staff use of Facebook and social networking websites. So at the next school committee meeting, we'll be coming forth with 2 recommended policies, the one on service animals and the one on students transferring from charter schools. The other 2 are still under review. And based on past practice, I do hope to see these policies placed on the district website so parents can offer input. And I also wanted to thank Superintendent Benton for putting the school committee's policy manual up on the committee's website, all 500 pages. And I look forward to seeing the school committee's website page gradually improve with more content added. And finally, the Technology Task Force, which of all the subcommittees I'm on, this is my favorite. We met last Thursday as well at the West, and since this meeting happened less than a week ago, the official minutes haven't been sent to me yet, but I did take a few things away from the meeting. Mr. Ellis said that there was strong participation in the Wilmington Education Foundation Technology Grant Program from all the schools. He estimated that there were twice as many grant proposals as usual, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, but I was particularly excited about the grant that proposed a small collection of Kindles for one of the elementary school libraries. Mr. Ellis said that every regular classroom in the middle school now has a mounted projector. That's a big milestone of his. Mr. Ellis discussed the district's new student information system, which is either called X2 or X squared. I wasn't quite sure. X2. And it will be in place by the fall, and the system will serve as both the teacher's grade book and attendance book. It will allow teachers to see students' IEPs and 504s, and there will be a teacher-student portal where teachers can issue homework assignments and post the class schedule and syllabus online. Mr. Ellis discussed Curricuplan, which is the district's new curriculum planning software. It's less expensive with more features than the current software we're using. And I guess basically a principal or a curriculum team leader could consult this curriculum planning software, walk into any classroom in the building, and basically know what lesson the teacher is teaching that day. Mr. Ellis and his team recently upgraded the internet speed at both the high school and the middle school. He lost me a little bit, but he basically said that they're now 10 times faster than what they used to be just a few months ago. And finally, every school was talking about all the great things they had been doing, and the one that I'll mention is the Shawsheen. The Shawsheen talked about how their art teacher, who is creating electronic portfolios for all her students by taking photos of their artwork, she hopes eventually to create an online art gallery where students and parents can view their art from home. And something along the lines was said, a drawing may get folded or worn, but a digital photo of that drawing will last forever. So I just wanted to pass that one along. And that's it for my reports.
Can I just add that on Friday, a different form of technology, our science engineering technology at the middle school, Analog puts on a fair every year for the students, and it's open from 7:30 till 1 o'clock, and I really, if you have time to stop by and see the phenomenal volunteerism of the Analog Corporation and the phenomenal equipment in the middle school that our students have access to, and see some interesting projects, because you'll see students soldering and taking apart computers. It's wonderful.
It's fascinating. It's an excellent program. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Anybody? Okay. Let me see. Correspondence. Mr. Hayes.
We do have one piece of correspondence tonight. This is my first piece of correspondence. I'm so excited. Unfortunately, the contents is unfortunate, as they generally are with these. But dear Wilmington School Committee, I wanted to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation for the beautiful card that you sent. Your kindness, sympathy, and well wishes meant so much during this difficult time. Thank you, Eileen Del Rossi.
In case, I think we all know, but in case you don't know, we've been sending
Too many
notes. Yeah, we send notes of condolence to people. And do we send notes of congratulations when we have babies?
We do not.
No, we just do condolence.
I would prefer that.
Yeah. We feel that it lets people know that we really care about them in our community, so.
Absolutely.
So Robert, the secretary, sends notes of condolence based on, for the committee. So, excellent, thank you. All right, our last item is future meeting dates and agenda items, and our next meeting will be April 27th, 2011. Destination Imagination Report, Food Service Report. Now we won't have superintendent evaluation. And the first order of business would be school committee reorganization. And then town meeting is that Saturday, correct? April
30th.
April 30th. Yeah, so we'll remind everybody for April 30th, hopefully you'll keep it open and be able to attend at least the morning session. So that would be great, so if you know that ahead of time. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Marchese,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Mr. Vail, all those in favor? Great, unanimous, Linda, thank you. Thank you, everybody, good night.